Hi people, today I'm going to be comparing and accuracy testing every pistol in Anomic. I'm also going to be talking about the pros and cons of each one so you can make a better decision on which one is right for you and your playstyle. First up, we have the handgun. This is the cheapest gun in the game, costing only $600. It does 16 damage per shot, it has a fire rate of 160 rounds per minute, and it has a magazine capacity of 12 rounds. The handgun can be bought from gunsmiths and advanced gunsmiths. Next up, we have the combat pistol. At a price of $1,100, this gun does 14 damage per shot at a fire rate of 260 rounds per minute, and it has a magazine capacity of 17 rounds. The combat pistol can only be bought from gunsmiths. Next up, we have the classic pistol. This gun costs $1,100 and it does 23 damage per shot at a fire rate of 170 rounds per minute, and it has a magazine capacity of 7 rounds. The classic pistol can only be bought from advanced gunsmiths. Next up, we have the revolver. At a price of $1,200, this gun does 34 damage per shot at a fire rate of 130 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 6 rounds. The revolver can only be bought from advanced gunsmiths. Next up, we have the snub nose. At a price of $1,500, this gun deals 27 damage per shot at a fire rate of 200 rounds per minute, and it also has a magazine capacity of just 6 rounds. The snub nose can be bought from gunsmiths and advanced gunsmiths. Next up, we have the Pistol 50. This gun also costs $1,500, but it deals a whopping 45 damage per shot. It has a fire rate of 120 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 8 rounds. The Pistol 50 can only be bought from advanced gunsmiths. Next up, we have the Heavy Pistol. This gun costs $1,650. It does 18 damage per shot with a fire rate of 220 rounds per minute, and it has a magazine capacity of 10 rounds. The Heavy Pistol can be bought from gunsmiths and advanced gunsmiths. Last but not least, we have the Auto Revolver. This gun costs $2,150. It deals 26 damage per shot. It has a fire rate of 200 rounds per minute, and it has a magazine capacity of 6 rounds. The Auto Revolver can only be bought from advanced gunsmiths. Now that we know the specs of each pistol, it's time to see how accurately they shoot. So I'm going to be shooting each one at this wall 12 times, and I'm only going to be doing 4 at a time because if I did all of them at the same time, then I probably wouldn't have enough time before the bullets despawn. Alright, so it looks like the handgun and the combat pistol shoot very accurately. So the combat pistol seems to be the most accurate out of the 4 that we just tested, and the least accurate was the revolver. Yeah, that's a lot of spread. You're not going to be able to hit anything at long ranges. Now we're going to be testing the other 4 guns. Alright, let's take a look at the groupings. So it looks like the most accurate out of these guns was the heavy pistol. So The least accurate was definitely the Pistol 50. Now that we know the specs of each gun and how accurately they shoot, it's time to go over the pros and cons of each one. So starting off with the handgun, one pro of this thing is that it shoots very accurately. So like you guys saw in the accuracy demonstration, you're going to be able to hit things pretty easily, even at long ranges. And another pro of the handgun is that this thing is dirt cheap. So like I said before, it only costs $600. Which is the cheapest you can get for pretty much any gun, so this is going to be good for beginners and pretty much anyone who doesn't have a lot of money. And the only con I'd say is that it has a rather low rate of fire. It only shoots 160 rounds per minute, and it's not super slow, but it's slow enough that you can't really spray and pray like with some other guns. But anyways, now we're going to go on to the combat pistol. So one pro of this thing is that it also shoots very accurately, even more accurately than the handgun, so this is definitely going to be effective at long range. And another pro is that this thing has the biggest magazine out of any pistol. As you can see, it holds 17 rounds. And another pro is that it has a pretty fast fire rate. It shoots 260 rounds per minute, which is the fastest out of any other pistol. And the only con of the combat pistol is that it does the least amount of damage, so it's gonna take more shots to kill, I guess. Okay, anyways, next up we have the classic pistol. Now, one pro of this gun is that it does a lot of damage. It does 23 damage, which is really good for a pistol. Now, one con of the classic pistol is that it has a low rate of fire, and also it has a low magazine size, holding only 7 rounds, so you're definitely going to have to make your shots count with this thing. Next up, we have the revolver. So one pro of this thing is that it does a ton of damage. It does 34 damage per shot, which is even higher than that of the classic pistol, but otherwise it's not a very good gun. One con of the revolver is that it has a pretty low rate of fire at 130 rounds per minute, which is even lower than the handgun. And another con, like you saw in the accuracy demonstration, is that it has pretty poor accuracy, so you're probably not going to hit what you're aiming at when you're shooting at long range. And the last con I want to mention is that this thing has a pretty small magazine size, so this applies to any revolver. It only holds 6 rounds, so you're gonna have to reload a lot. So the only reason I'd buy this gun is because it actually looks pretty cool. It looks like something a cowboy would use, I guess. Okay. Anyways, next up we have the snub nose. Now, one pro of this gun is that it also does a lot of damage, but it still doesn't do quite as much as the revolver, but it's still a lot of damage for a pistol. It does like 27. And another pro that I want to mention is that this thing has a pretty good fire rate. It shoots 200 rounds per minute, which isn't that fast, but it's still much faster than something like the revolver. So, but just like the revolver, it only holds 6 rounds, so it's pretty small for a pistol. Now, next up we have the Pistol 50. Now, the only pro of this gun is that it does a massive amount of damage. It does 45 damage, so you can easily 2-shot kill with this gun, as long as one of those shots is a headshot. But there are still a lot of cons, one of them being a slow rate of fire. It shoots 120 rounds per minute, which is slower than any other pistol, so you're definitely going to have to make your shots count. And another con is that this thing has pretty poor accuracy, so unfortunately you're not going to be able to snipe with this thing. And one last con is that this thing uses very expensive ammo, so it uses 50 cal, which is probably the most, it's literally the most expensive ammo in the game. So if you don't have a lot of money, then you're probably not going to be able to afford the ammo, I guess. So anyways, next up we have the heavy pistol. So one pro of this thing is that it has a really good rate of fire. It shoots 220 rounds per minute, which isn't quite as fast as the combat pistol, but it's still really good. Another pro of the heavy pistol is that this thing shoots accurately. Not quite as accurately as the handgun or the combat pistol, but still pretty good for medium to long range. Now, I try to think of at least one con for the heavy pistol, but it doesn't really have any. Doesn't have any outstanding disadvantages, so I will say it's a pretty well-rounded gun. So lastly, we have the auto revolver. Now, one pro of this gun is that it does a lot of damage, and it has a good rate of fire, just like the snub nose. One con is that it costs a lot more than the snub nose, even though it performs exactly the same. Actually, it performs slightly worse. It does like 1 less damage. And this is definitely my favorite looking revolver, so honestly, that's the only reason I'd buy it. It looks cool, so yes. Well, that's going to be it for today's pistol showdown, and I hope you guys found it helpful in choosing which pistol is right for you in your playstyle. So, anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.